the Zoom stream on YouTube as soon as it goes live. And then she will drop it into chat. By the way, we also have a YouTube playlist. And if you're not aware of how that works out, it's almost like a section of the library where all the books are in the same place. And it will take all of the Friday VIP calls. It puts them in a playlist. So after you finish watching today's playback, you'll watch last week's playback and then the week before. So it almost becomes like a virtual podcast, kind of like it's a video, if you will, but you can watch all of the playbacks in these series, and you can see some of the other tips we've offered in previous weeks. Because every time you come on to these Friday VIP job seeker office hours, I want you to feel inspired. I want you to be educated and informed. I want you to get some new tips to help you avoid the black hole of job search. And by the way, every time I talk about the black hole of job search, feel free to go into chat and say I hate the black hole of job search, because you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's still like this hatred we all have for it. Like, you apply to job upon job upon job and you never hear anything back, and it's soul crushing and energy, defeating, and it's like a roller coaster, and it feels so unfair, doesn't it? Like, I'm a good person. I'm doing everything you asked me to do. I created a resume. I applied to the job. I did the questionnaire. I did all the hoops you asked me to jump through. I even asked for some additional questions, and then I get nothing. I get like, your submission is complete, right? And maybe I get a form email back. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's 6 months later. They say the requisition has been closed. We've gone in another direction. And you're like, you think? I haven't ever heard anything back from you. But part of the reason I created these Friday calls is to give you an alternative path than relying upon that black hole of job search, because it doesn't seem right. It feels like you're totally out of control of the situation when you're relying rather on those job boards to get you back to working. So part of this call is to help to create a community of fellow job seekers. And by the way, if you have not already introduced yourself in chat, I want you to go introduce yourself. I'm going to put the little spiel of what I'm looking for. I want you to get brief with these. Sometimes I'm seeing these really long paragraphs, and I want you to get a little bit more succinct with these. What we are looking for in your introduction is your targeted job title. Tell us like 1 or 2 job titles. You don't need to put your name, by the way, because Zoom will say Brenda Meller to everyone. So you don't need to say, hi, this is Brenda Meller. Just say targeted job titles, then put in your targeted geographic area. And you might be open to remote, but say based in Seattle, but open to remote anywhere in the US. So something like that. Okay. And then put your LinkedIn URL in, make sure that it includes the full HTTPS, because then it is blue and it is clickable. Okay. And by the way, if you want to connect with me, I am certainly open to connecting with you. I have creator mode set up on my profile, creator mode, CREATOR, creator mode is what it's called. And if you have creator mode set up, your default button changes from connect to follow. So if you do want to connect with me, there is a way, but in my instructions, I've just mentioned that you need to click on more. Click on the more button instead of just follow. Click on the more button. Underneath that more button, there'll be a menu, and one of the options will either be personalized invite or connect. And then when you do that, just mention that you were on today's Zoom webinar, if you could, and I will be happy to accept your introduction. By the way, I am fresh-faced today. Yes, because my day did not start as normally does. I normally have like a sequencing of things that I do, and showering and hair and makeup is part of that. And sometimes I come on fresh faced without my makeup done, without my hair done, but you get me all natural, which then makes me look even better when I've got my hair and my makeup done. Little hack for all of us ladies out there. If you are new to the call, I want to welcome you. And I know that you might not want to be here, because if you're coming on the call, that means you are unemployed. Maybe you've recently been laid off, let go, corporate downsize, RIF. I mean, there's all these stupid acronyms they use. Like, I hate them, right? But it means that you're not working is what it means. And you might be in a situation where a layoff is impending. The company is doing some things in the future. If that describes you, or if you're very, very new or even in career transition, I want you to download our Do This Now checklist. I'm going to ask Julia, my intern, to drop that into chat. Inside this job seeker community, we have created a checklist of things that you should do now if you are either coming up on a potential layoff, or you're recently been let go, laid off, or you are in career transition and unemployed. I feel like, when you work for a company, they take care of you. HR takes care of you. They help facilitate paperwork and all that other good stuff. And then you go into that the last day, you know, that awkward meeting where they pull you in and they let you know that you're one of X people who've been let go and we're sorry. And here's your severance package. You'll need to sign off on this to get the money. And we need to escort you back to your desk to get your things, like you're a criminal, right? Get your things, your personal effects out there. And we're going to walk you out to the parking lot to make sure you don't go crazy on us. And then that's it. And good luck to you, person. And you're like, what do I do now? Right? Like, what do I do now? And I feel like I've been in that situation twice in my career, once early on. And after it happened, I said, never again am I going to find myself in a situation where I'm told I am let go from the organization, never again. And then the second time it happened, it was like, okay, there were probably some signs in retrospect that it was coming. You know, in both instances, it was, you know, in the first instance, it was a situation of cost cutting for the organization. They were going through some reorganization. The second time, it was a leadership change. And I was the first, and there was a ripple effect of a lot of people that were let go from the organization after that. But at any rate, I'm glad that it happened to me because it brought me here to you today. And it also fuels me with this passion and hatred for the black hole of job search. It also, I can dip into my reserves of those feelings I went through when I'm working with you and when I'm helping you. And, you know, I want to say that it's a roller coaster of emotions when you are in career transition. And if you're feeling this roller coaster, it's okay. Some days you're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel at your lowest. That is normal. Other days you're going to be angry. That is normal. Other days you're going to be sad. And I remember my sad days. I mean, the first week after my layoff, I cried big, ginormous tears. I didn't know I had that in me. I loved my job, but I didn't know I loved it that much. But it was like I was grieving the loss, and I was grieving all I had given to the company for such a long period. I was part of the leadership team. I was in the board meetings. I was helping shape the future of the organization. And I was like, oh, and you have to allow yourself to feel those feelings, the negative ones, the anger, the depression, I think the sadness. But then at some point, you got to pick yourself up and say, I can't control what happened to me yesterday, last week, last month, last year, but I can control what I do today. And I can control what I do tomorrow and the day after. And I want you to think about this expression, energy moves in one direction. Okay. So when I say that, I'm not talking about the band in One Direction. Energy moves in one direction. So you can either allow yourself to get that negative pull, right? Or you can empower yourself by throttling forward. Okay. So you can replay the what ifs, and you can replay the things in your mind that weren't fair and the things that happened to you, why they shouldn't have, or you can get active on LinkedIn and you can start connecting with fellow job seekers. You can connect with people who are recruiters in your industry. You can start interacting with other people's posts. You can put out inspirational posts on LinkedIn. And by the way, one of my hacks was always when I'm having a down day, I will go on Google and do a Google image search for an inspirational quote about motivation, inspirational quote about leadership, inspirational quotes about marketing, whatever I was feeling down about. I kind of did an inspirational quote to like flip me from the negative to the positive. And then I would go and post it on LinkedIn. And it was almost like me giving advice to myself. Right. And inspirational quotes do really well on LinkedIn, by the way. They attract a certain type of person, and they'll like and they'll comment on the post. And I might have even, like when I do those posts, I might say, this quote means a lot to me because, and I would explain it. Right. And that would take that negative energy that I was feeling about myself that day, and it would put me into a more positive light. I'd get people piling on the post with inspirational thoughts and comments, and that would help to move the energy forward. Okay. So again, I want you to think about energy moves in one direction. You can, I think it's healthy to allow yourself to feel some of the negative stuff. I think you have to allow yourself to go through it. Otherwise, you're going to bottle it up and it's going to come out someday. But allow yourself to feel it, and then separate yourself from that negative and push yourself into the positive. And if you're struggling with how do I get past that negative, I feel like it's weighing me down so much. First, I want to say it's not a bad thing to reach out and say that you need help. That is a good thing. That is a sign of strength, not of weakness. Whether it is a family member, a member of your clergy, a member of your community, a trusted friend, or somebody who's a professional. Okay. So mental health is something we don't talk about enough in this country, in the world in general. mental health and physical health, I think we should be open to getting health care when we need health care. So don't be afraid to reach out. I have worked with counselors on and off throughout my career, and I think sometimes we just need to vent and air what's happening within our hearts, our minds, things like that, to somebody who can help us to process them. Okay. Sometimes it's nice to talk to somebody who's not a family member or a friend who can just help us to ask questions without having judgment, because they're not in the situation that you're in, if that makes sense. Okay. And by the way, if you are feeling like you're a bit isolated going through this job search process, I want you to look around, because right now we've got almost 50 people on the call here. We've had many people that have partnered up and found an accountability partner. If you feel like you are feeling like alone going through this process, you're like an island out there, I want you to go into chat and just say, hey, does anyone want to be an accountability partner? And you could do a call once a week with each other, check in. Maybe you set a personal or a professional goal. You say, I'm going to get my resume updated this week. And then the next week you can check in with each other. Hey, did you get your resume updated? So at least having somebody to check in with you on that process, that can help. Reaching out and getting help from others can help you. Another way of getting out of that negative funk is helping other people. And you can do that right now, my friend. You can look through the chat right now, read through what people are posting in their comments in the Zoom. And if you are aware of job opportunities that match what they're looking for, even just reply to them right now and say, hey, Al, I might know of something for you. Let's connect later in LinkedIn. So you can keep going on the Zoom, but Al will probably reach out to you afterwards and be like, hey, Brenda, what was that job that you're talking about? So read through the chat and see if there's anything that you can help people with. As we are going throughout our call today, we are sharing success stories. So if you have a success, I want you to put success in chat right now. And I love hearing the success stories. It can be anything on the path to finding a new job or finding a new job in general. It could be, I got an interview. It could be, I got a job offer. I'm not going to see you anymore on these calls. It could be my LinkedIn profile is lighting up because I work with Brenda as a coach, or I bought Brenda's book and read it and I'm implementing the tactics, hint, hint, hint. And it's working. I'm starting to get people looking at my profile. Or there's other books. Joey has a book. Mindy has a book. I'm trying to remember. Al has a book. If you have a book related to job seekers, go ahead and drop it in chat right now, or a book that you've read as a job seeker you felt was helpful, go ahead and drop that in chat. And on a related note, we have created a Goodreads book list on my account that I'm adding in job seeker related books. I'm going to ask Julia to drop in the Goodreads reading list, if you wouldn't mind. By the way, DPYK Joey, you're going to have to tell people what that means. Go ahead and drop that into chat right now if you could. So you can help others. That's another way of getting out of the funk. You can help others inside the chat here. Another way is volunteering your time. Find something in your local community or within your area of influence, your area of passion to help with. Like for me, I love dogs, rescue dogs and stuff like that. We have a rescue dog. So I might call the shelter and say, what do you need right now? Do you need towels? Do you need canned dog food? Can I come over and walk the dogs? I haven't done that yet, but like, what can I do to help you? Right? That's one thing you could do. So whatever you are passionate about, reach out to a local nonprofit and say, I'm looking to volunteer my time. What can I help you with? You might get lucky and they might say, in conversation, well, what do we notice you have some extra time. What do you do? Well, I was let go from my accounting position. Well, actually we're looking for a part-time accounting person. Like they might have an opportunity. You never know. But at any rate, it refocuses your time from that negative. And a lot of times the negative we get in our own head and it just keeps circulating around until we bounce it off. Right. So if you can help other people, that takes your focus off of you and it helps you to redirect that focus and that energy to helping others. And sometimes that kicks you out of that rut, that funk, if you will. Okay. But do know there's going to be days where you're on the upswing, right? You're like, I'm on the Friday call with Brenda. I'm not in that crappy board meeting or whatever I was in before. I don't have to deal with my boss who is always bringing drama in all the time. I don't have to worry today, is a layoff going to happen? Because it's already happened. I don't have to have that fear and dread every day of going in, right? So you may be in that frame, or maybe you're enjoying the fact that you are professionally networking right now. You're getting out there, you're going to different events, you're learning new things. I remember for me, there was a point in time where I was starting to get people approaching me for side projects. Hey, Brenda, since you have some time, can you help me with LinkedIn? Or since you have some time, can you help us with our marketing strategy? Since you have some time, can you run social media management for a company on a part-time basis? And I started realizing I wasn't even marketing myself. Like, people just knew of me and they enjoyed doing these things. And I started realizing, gosh, if I pieced enough of these together, I could probably make a job and I wouldn't need to get a job. I could create one of my own, right? And that was really exciting for me. And I have to tell you guys, I didn't tell my husband right away that I stopped looking for a job. Don't tell him. No, he knows this already. But I didn't tell him that I stopped applying for jobs. There was one day, it was in December of 2017. He was trying to help me find a job. He was pulling up like Google job alerts for VP of marketing and marketing directors in Metro Detroit. And he sent me, it was a Google alert for this job. It was like some VP of marketing for something related to sports. And I'm not a huge sports person at all. He is. And at the time I had already committed to stop looking for a job and I was really starting to grow my business. Hadn't told him yet. And he sent me this job and we're in the same house. So this is the funny thing. And I emailed him back, right? And I said, sounds great, but I'm not really interested. Are you thinking of applying? Because he's in sports, right? And he's like, no, this is for you. And I said, but I already have a job. And he's like, no, well, you're just doing that Meller marketing stuff for now until you get back to work. And I said, yeah, about that. And then we had a little bit of an awkward conversation. And I'm like, I've actually got, and I had a buffer in place, some money put aside for savings. So I wasn't going to let us go hungry or anything. But the fact of the matter is it was viable at that point. And it was something that I knew and I believed in myself that I could grow my own business. I didn't need to rely upon an employer. And now I call myself enthusiastically self-employed. By the way, I've got a podcast I just launched. I'll see if Julia can drop the link into chat right now about that series. But I'll be talking a little bit more about my journey. And I'm also interviewing people on that path. So I dropped that out there because there may be 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of you on the call. I don't know, that you're in career transition right now. You are experience rich. Maybe age 40 plus or age 50 plus, but you've got enough experience under your belt that you probably could do your own business. And you might be afraid to do so. And I was never one of those people that was going to be like, I'm leaving corporate and starting my own business. No. I was marketing director, moving up to assistant vice president of marketing. I had chief marketing officer at the top of the hill, and I was going to put my flag in it. And I never intended on leaving corporate. That was what I was going to do. I admired the people that left, but I was never like one of those that wanted to leave. But what I will say is the universe nudged me forward. If it hadn't happened in the way that it did, I wouldn't be sitting here with all of you today. So I'm glad that it happened and I'm glad to be here. But my goal is to get you all back to work. That's my goal for you. Okay. So I want to see if there are any questions inside chat. We've got about 20 minutes to go. I'm going to be on for about 15 minutes more myself. So I'm going to do an example of a question right now. Do you have a dog? I'm just typing in a random question just to show you an example. So I want you to type the word question in all caps if you have a question, and then type in the question that you want us to answer for you. Okay. That way, if we don't get through all of your questions, you'll still get the opportunity to hear other people in chat will reply back to you. Okay. Experience rich. Julie, I want you to put the YouTube playlist for the VIP Friday calls and then the podcast landing page. So mellermarketing.com/podcast. If you could put the podcast link on there. All right. Let's see what else is going on inside. Donate blood. I love that. And by the way, I've years ago, I had one of my colleagues, his son was going through leukemia, and he got me into donating platelets back then as well. So you could also donate platelets. It doesn't make you feel as exhausted as donating blood. And platelets, actually, I think they serve more people. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but there's a couple of different things you can do to donate blood, to donate platelets. Absolutely. All right, let's see if there is anything else. I hope you guys were okay. I went a little bit sideways on the negative positive. I was just been thinking about this a lot lately. And Joey, you actually inspired me because in the beginning of your phone call and of today's call, you were saying, if I hear you going negative, I'm going to jump in and slap you across the face. And I think we need that sometimes. And sometimes it hurts. You're like, oh my gosh, that stung. Why did you slap me? And then a minute later, you're like, oh my gosh, I was being negative. And if you were on, I think it was last week's call, I was talking to someone and we were asking her to introduce herself, and I asked her a question about her qualifications, and she gave me the waffle response, like kind of did this, not did that. And I said, okay, stop. I'm going to ask you the question again. And I want you to say, yes, I have that. Like, just answer what I asked. And do you remember that? And I even afterwards, I was like, I hope she was okay. I felt a little bad. I emailed her afterwards and I'm like, I hope that was okay. I didn't want you to feel like we were criticizing you, but I really want to help you. I want to really be supportive. And she's like, no, that was okay. Because I don't want this to be like, I don't want to go on the Friday call. Those people are going to attack me. And no, we're here in a spirit of constructive criticism and in helping you to move forward. And we know when you're in career transition, you can be in a place where your confidence is shaken and shattered, and you're in a position where you're desperate to get back to work. And sometimes that comes out in the way we respond to questions, the lack of confidence, and sometimes we waffle on our responses. So we're here to help you, to kind of shake you out of it a little bit and get you back to that positive place, just to make tweaks. It's like a little tweak of the dial, right? You already had the response, but let's just turn the dial slightly and let's help you out with that. All right, now I see a few questions that are coming in. The first question is from Louisa. Louisa says, I have a question about assignments as part of the hiring process. Any guidance? I've heard some companies use it to get projects done and don't hire. Oh, I feel you on that, Louisa. I had a couple of those myself. One of the companies I interviewed with before I decided to say self-employed, they had me do a whole marketing plan for them. One of these days, I'm going to publish it as a LinkedIn post because I'm sure they took ideas from that and implemented it. I'm sure they did. I want to see if any of our all-stars want to help to answer this question. Joey, I see your head is nodding. Do you want to talk about this at all? Do you want to give us your thoughts on this?
Definitely. And I was looking at Al's comment. It's okay to share with these prospective employers what you would do. Just don't tell them how to do it, because to Al's point, you don't want to give away the store. On the other hand, sometimes you got to be careful, because if you don't give away too much information, then you may get knocked out of the running. So it's a depends type of scenario. Use your best judgment, like I said before. Use your gut. But to Al's point, it's okay to share what you've done, or share what you've done somewhere else, right? But don't give them everything. Otherwise, why would they hire you?
It's so hard though, Joey, because like, what if they say this is and I've had this happen, like in that job I was in, and I ended up being one of two final candidates. But they were like, this is part of the final phase. We want you to put together a marketing plan for the specific thing. And if I would have said no, I would have been taken out of consideration. And they waffled back and forth. And I ended up pulling myself out of consideration because they couldn't make up their mind on the position. But maybe it would have all worked out. But it's like, in some scenarios, they're like, this is a requirement. But I like when you're saying you would tell them, what did you say? What to do, but not exactly how? Is that right?
You give them like an outline of, these are the steps I would take, right? But when push comes to shove and say, well, how would you do that? Then you go, well, interesting, you would ask me that. If I start working for you tomorrow, I could show it all to you, right?
There you go.
I would say that because I'm from New York. Somebody from the Midwest may not feel comfortable.
From the Midwest, we're a little nicer, Joey.
Right. Right. All I'm saying, again, it depends on who you're talking to. You got to feel the stuff up. There's no cut and dry answer. I believe that. I think it's situation by situation. But I don't know. It's a tough one, Brenda. But yeah,
I hear you. Yeah. Al, what do you want to add to that? Because you were the person who commented in there.
Yeah, I love the idea of having an outline and maybe replying verbally, but laying it out on paper is just giving away the store, And I've had success doing it this way. I've had success doing it that way. Just to get out there and give them everything is just you're working for nothing. And if I have to choose between working for nothing or not working for nothing, I'm going to choose not working for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you might even have a compromise coming in. It sounds like you're asking for a fully developed marketing plan, which is something I would do if hired in for this position. What I'll be happy to do is create an overview for you of my process and maybe an outline. And then if and when we do decide to move forward, I'd be happy to, I think you got to maybe meet them halfway in there. Linda, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree. And unfortunately, I've seen a couple of people who have spent time and energy and put together this full-blown presentation, been turned down, and then see the company implement exactly what they provided.
Yeah.
So no, don't give them the full thing. I like the idea of giving them an outline. Here's what my process would be, but I'd also give them a little bit of a teaser. So I would say, here's the way I would start, and then give them a little bit of information. You've got that hook, exactly, Al. And then they're intrigued and they're interested. And then you'll say, once I get started, I can pull in the information from you to really make it fly. And because it's based on your values, on what we do here. Remember to put the we there as if you're already in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that makes it clear to them. And I've seen that work very well.
All right, good. I'm going to keep all of you up on screen here because we're just going to kind of power through a couple more of these questions, if that's okay with all of you. I see another question coming from Greg, and I'm going to, I'll start and then I'll see if anyone else has a response here. If a job wants 8 years of experience and I have 6 clearly and 2 more buried in another role, what's the best way to show that on resume or LinkedIn to get past automated screeners? So first of all, if you have 8 years of experience, whether it's 6 + 2 or 8 in one role, you have 8 years of experience. If you feel that you need to explain it, and if this is like a specific job that says you need 8 years, usually they say like 5 to 10, but if they say you need 8+ for whatever reason, in either your cover letter back to the person, you may want to spell out, you're asking, I notice you are asking for 8 years of experience. I do have 8 years in total, 6 from X position plus another 2 to 3 from another role. I just wanted to call that out to you. Is there anyone else from the lineup from our VIP All-Stars group who'd like to add on to that? Joey?
So I'm not an HR person, so my apologies to the HR people, but a lot of those job ads are written by people in HR who are not the ones doing the job.
Yeah.
And so you can, that requirement can make you feel as if you're not part of the running. Don't do that, right? If you feel you have an inkling, if you're 80% there, then go for it. That's what I would suggest.
All right, Sue, I saw you had your hand up.
I just would say that's a case where in tailoring your resume, you want to make sure you put that right at the top. So many years of experience so that they're not having to do your work for them. They don't have to do the work. Make it very evident, because I'm seeing more and more in job postings, at least a couple that I've seen recently, where they're actually saying, and when you put the application in, there's a pre-screening question asking if you have this experience. And you can't lie and say yes unless you actually have it. So that's where you can help them match it up really quickly.
All right, Linda, did you want to add something to that too?
I do, actually. So I think, Joey, that if you've got 70% of what the job is looking for, not 80, it's a good job to apply for. And as somebody on the other side of the desk, as that recruiter, I don't look specifically to see how many years of experience you have. My job postings are looking for unicorns. I'm looking for everything under the sun.
Right.
If you've got relevant experience, if you can show me how it transfers to what I do, I don't use number of years of experience as any of my screening criteria. It's not anything I'll use to screen you in. More likely, I use it to screen you out.
Right. And the other thing, Linda, thank you, Linda. That's great. The other thing, and I've said this before, and I'm sorry for beating a dead horse. If you want to eliminate all these issues, have somebody sponsor you who knows you, who can walk your resume into the hiring manager. So all of a sudden, now your capital has now been raised because you're coming in with this recommendation from somebody. You no longer have to have ticking these boxes, right? Just my friend here is going to recommend, just get a recommendation, network your brains out and get people to sponsor you and guide you through the process to bypass these ATSs, these black holes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Great responses there. Hopefully that helped you out. I'm sorry. I think it was Greg who asked that question. Hopefully that helped you out, Greg. If you need any clarification on those responses, drop your question in chat. We're going to do one more question. I'm going to set it up and then I'm going to turn, I'll respond a little bit and then I'm going to turn host control. I'm going to give the baton of the meeting, if you will, back to Sue, and Sue will finish us off. We are hosted on, actually, I'm going to turn control to Sue, but Julia will be the host. So Julia, you'll be able to stop the YouTube at the point that the call is done, I believe. If not, I'll figure it out. I hope that makes sense. All right. So this is a question, and I love that you've asked this question. It says ETC. I don't know who you are, but Are you aware of increased fake employment postings that are simply left up to generate traffic and position the company as growing or expanding? A recent NPR story mentioned this, and I've experienced it myself. By the way, if anyone has the NPR link, drop it in chat. I think there's two things I have observed or heard about within here. One is the fake job posting that's not really with the company in an attempt to get your information and then either sell your information to other people or whatnot. So be very careful of putting in your complete home address, for example, in on your resume. If you are in doubt that it is a real or a fake posting, go to the company website and see if it is listed in their careers page first and foremost. The second thing I would do if it smells a little fishy, if it doesn't look like it's associated with somebody who's an employee of the company, is go to their LinkedIn page and see if it's posted there in their jobs. Or maybe even better yet, try to find somebody who is a recruiter or works in HR and connect with them on LinkedIn. Mention that you found a job posting and say, it seems a little bit off. Can I share with you the link to see if it's legitimate? You'll actually be doing them a favor if it's not, because sometimes they don't know that those are out there until someone alerts them of that. So if you are in doubt if it's really legitimate or if it's like spammy looking or whatever, try to get verification from the company. Now, the creating a job posting to make the company look like they're growing and expanding, and this sounds like, stuffing their pockets to make investors look like they're big. That's a little bit shady out there. I'm not really sure how to handle that particular situation, other than, again, going back and verifying, are the job postings out, and maybe trying to make a connection at the company who can say whether or not they're actually trying to fill a job. With that said, I'm going to take myself off. I'm going to turn the hosting over to Sue, and Julia will be in the background to keep the meeting going. I'll see you guys next Friday, but wish me luck on my proposal, and I will let you guys keep on going. And you're welcome to keep the meeting going here too, Sue. Don't feel like you need to end it. All right. Thank you, guys.
So I'll keep the meeting open for about 10, 15 more minutes because I know people want to download the chat and network. But if the All-Stars, before you have to drop off, I'd ask each of the All-Stars, what's one thing that you want to point to? We've heard from people today, some are discouraged about how much time they're having to go before they get a job, but others are talking about some of their small successes. So if each of you, let's start with Linda, then Al, then Joey, one or two tips for people that they can take forward this weekend and think, okay, here's one thing I can do to help me get further along in my job search.
Okay,
Linda.
so I'm actually going to give two quick ones. One is, don't ever screen yourself out. If you can come up with those 70 to 75% match in terms of transferable skills, it's a good job to apply for. The second tip is, make sure that you really are focusing in on those transferable skills and accomplishments. They don't care about everything you've ever done. A future employer only cares about what you can do for them, and it's up to you to point that out in a way that they can't avoid seeing.
I love that, Linda. I tell everybody in this case with job seeking, past performance is a predictor of your future actions and abilities. Al, go ahead.
So pretend we're in an interview right now, and I'm going to ask a question of the hiring manager. It's been my experience that a lot of times hiring managers don't get to write the job description. Is there anything that's going to be important for me to know in the position that we haven't discussed yet?
So you're saying make sure that you find out from them what they may have left out, instead of the question about, is there something in my resume that you're uncertain about?
Yeah, and on the other side of that coin, Sue, it's maybe starting off with the question, hopefully you've had the chance to review my resume. What is it about my background that made you want to speak with me?
Okay, I'm trying to type fast. I don't type nearly as fast as Brenda, I know. Great, thank you. Joey.
That's great. Again, I'm going to harp on networking. I'm going to harp on the people that you know who can help you find work. And I've said this many times. It's in my book. The chances are great. In fact, if you go back into your career, I don't know if I'm going to mine, this is true. Most of your jobs have been acquired because you knew somebody who knew someone who knew someone. The person who hired you is somebody you never would have met had you not known Billy or Susan or Tommy. And so you need to make a list. And this is the other thing, write this stuff down, because if it's in your head, you can edit it and you can manipulate it. If you have to use Post-its or whatever the case may be, write the names down of people that you know, especially the people that you know who talk to a lot of people, accountants, doctors, auto mechanics, your hairstylist, your dry cleaner, people that deal with people who are constantly yakking and talking and blurbing or whatever, right? Because you want to get out there that you're looking for work. It goes to, I think maybe Linda said it or somebody said, you know, maybe Brenda, ask for help. You're asking for help. It's not a weakness. It's not a weakness, right? You've got to take action, because here's the thing. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. You can think all you want about getting the next job that you want. You could think about it till you're blue in the face. If you don't do anything about it, you'll be thinking about it. And you don't want to think about it, because thinking about it is not going to pay the bills. So enlist the people in your world, in your community, who you know, who you love, who you trust. Even if you don't trust them, even if you don't know them, right? There are people out there who can help you, who want to help you, right? But you got to do something. You got to get their names on paper, and you got to make phone calls. You got to go visit them. You got to send them emails, texts, whatever the case may be. But man, there's a wealth of people out there who are willing to help you, but they don't know you're looking. Let them know.
Great. And Christopher Dixon reminded us to go through our Google contacts list, go through your LinkedIn, lots of powerful filters. I just got an alert from Julie that Brenda has to have us drop off the Zoom. So save the chat real quick. I'll give you another second. We've got exactly half a minute before she needs the connection. And have a great weekend, everybody. Giving you all pom-poms. Thanks for the great discussion. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Go ahead, Julia. You can end the meeting now.